Thank you. I'm Councilmember Jose Huizar. This will be a committee of one. Councilmember Mitch Englander could not be here today, and Councilmember Cedillo is next door at a Economic Development Committee. So any item that comes out of committee today will be a communication from the chair, and what that all that really means is that someone will have to motion to uphold the chairman's recommendation. But anybody can always motion it, no matter what vote comes out of a committee anyway. But that is really all that means. And we apologize for starting late. We had a long council meeting today, and then we started an economic development committee later, and so that's why we're starting this late. And with that, let's do item number one, please.
Item one, Councilman, is a motion, Koretz-Krikorian. It's instructing the City Planning Department to prepare a general plan amendment for properties in CD5.
Okay, thank you. We're going to send that forward on consent, but it's a recommendation from the chair, correct? Approval with recommendation from the chair. Item number 4, we will receive and file. That's the report from the Director of Planning. So we will receive and file that item. And if we could go to item number 2, please.
Item 2, Councilman, is an appeal by John Ellis and Frida Ellis. It's a haul route appeal for property in CD4.
Thank
Good afternoon, Jason Healy, Staff Engineer, Board of Building and Safety. On June 2nd, the Board of Building and Safety Commissioners approved a haul route at 9410 Sierra Mar for the export of 4,156 cubic yards from the property to the disposal site outside of the city. In doing so, they also approved the additional conditions that are found in the staff report dated March 27th, 2015. Additionally, and in respect to the environmental report, the Board of Building and Safety adopted the MND that was prepared by the Department of City Planning. Because of the imposed mitigated measures in the MND, the Board of Building and Safety determined that there was no substantial evidence that the project would have a significant effect on the environment. In the specific, I've read the appeal. The appellant is concerned about the route itself. I just want you to know that the route that we did approve includes additional flag attendants to help with getting trucks in and out of that area. They've limited the number of trucks, the hours of operation, and the number of trucks that can be on the route at any given time. If you have any further questions, I will be in the audience.
Thank you. First, if we could have the appellant come up, please. The appellant is Michael Revettis. 5 minutes.
Yes, good afternoon. Thank you. My name is Michael Revettis. I'm here on behalf of Mr. and Mrs. John Ellis. Mr. Ellis would have liked to be here, but unfortunately he was stuck out of state. Essentially, I just want to confirm that you have in your record the appeal letter. I'm going to refer to it as an appeal letter, just outlined from the Ellises, outlining their issue and their appeal. The appeal is regarding, it's a partial appeal concerning the route approval for the hauling of the dirt. And essentially, in a nutshell, if I may, do you have the appeal letter from the
Yes,
Ellises?
we do. Your application, you mean? Or yeah, the appeal letter, yes.
It's, yes, the appeal letter. And there's an attachment to it, and I believe we don't have the original available on in any other format, but there's a map which is attached as Exhibit A, the very first exhibit, which illustrates the route. And essentially, the appeal is based on the fact that there's an alternative route that is much safer than the route that was approved earlier. If you look at the map, if you have that handy, you can see that arrow on the top, it's a little difficult just referring to the map, but essentially the arrow on the top indicates where the project is. The approved route is the blue line that winds down and winds around. I believe you can see that. I hope it's in color. The dotted line shows the route that was approved, which goes past my client's, the Ellis's home. There's a series of hairpin turns, and most importantly, there were some photos also submitted, which you have on your website as part of the record, that illustrate how narrow the approved route is right in front of the Ellis home. Their home, the front door is 5 feet away from the street. There's a hairpin turn, and their concern is loaded dump trucks coming down have to negotiate that hairpin turn. Extremely narrow. You cannot get 2 trucks by. I doubt you can get 2 cars to pass each other on that particular part of the street. So the concern is that it's extremely narrow and dangerous immediately in front of their home, and it is a downhill from the job site. The route, it travels downhill toward their home. We're suggesting that Flicker Way, which is a more direct and more level route along the top, where you can see where the job site is, the arrow. Flicker Way exits directly onto Doheny. Doheny is the main street that everything exits to from that canyon area. Flicker is more level and more direct. It's a wider street, a much safer exit for the trucks. So we're asking very simply that the earlier decision approving the haul route be reversed. Alternately, we'd like Flicker Drive to be designated as the alternate safer route to avoid traffic concerns with the trucks negotiating the street, dust and diesel fumes from the various trucks coming down a very narrow street in front of the Ellis home. Alternately, if you're not able to, if we cannot have Flicker as the alternate, I would ask that conditions be placed on the use of the route in front of their home, so that only empty dump trucks can pass their home on the way to the job site, as opposed to coming by with loaded trucks. I think that would reduce their concerns somewhat. That is all we have, Your Honor.
Thank you. Applicant, Rep. Chris Parker.
Good afternoon. My name is Chris Parker. I'm from Pacific Crest. I'm here representing the applicant. When the public hearing was held with the Board of Commissioners, we agreed to all of the conditions, including the different haul route itself. It wasn't our preferred route. We would prefer to go to Flicker, but we understood because of staff concerns that there's a very large project down Flicker, that it would put too much stress on the street, put too many trucks on the street. Since that meeting, we have been proactive. We've spoken with Mr. Ellis and his representative and told them that we agree that, we like Flicker, but we can't. It's been over almost a year since this case was first filed. The draft, the environmental assessment, was filed, and we had to wait for planning to turn that into a draft M&D. And so we don't want to start from square one, but we have also spoken with Mr. Healy from the Board of Commissioners, and we have promised the neighbor, our client has said he'll spend the money to file an alternative route application with Board of Commissioners so that we can use Flicker when the very large project isn't using Flicker. But we ask that our current approval be preserved or accepted and that this appeal be denied because we don't, it's not fair to our client to have to start from square one when it's almost been a full year since the case was refiled.
Thank you. Council District 4, Jonathan Brett.
Councilmember Huizar, always a pleasure to see you in committee. Jonathan Brand with CD4. Building and Safety has a lot of haul routes in this area, and it is their duty to ensure that we don't have multiple ones going down the same streets at the same time, and this is what Mr. Healy did in choosing this route. Now, what we just heard from the applicant, I think is a fair offer to resubmit once this other project that is even a larger project than this one that is going down Flicker is finished. And so that said, Building and Safety did a good job. We have many more mitigation measures than we did just 6 months to a year ago. So we should proceed with this and deny the appeal. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can I have staff up here, please? Staff to the microphone, please. Now, the appellant brought up the issue of the Flicker Street versus the designated hauling route. What decisions or what criteria was used, or how was the decision made to go for the one you recommended versus Flicker Street?
Just to clarify, the routes are submitted by the applicant. If they were to want to utilize Flicker, they would have to submit an application. That route would have to be forwarded to DOT and Street Services for them to examine that route and get their approvals, and then we would have to go back to our board to rehear the alternate route.
Okay. So when the applications are made, the applicant proposes the route, and then Building and Safety reviews it and determines if conditions, mitigation measures are in place, correct? It's not, does the Building and Safety go through a process itself of determining what different options exist?
We don't pick the routes. The applicant will pick the route. Street Services and DOT will look at the streets and say that those streets are safe enough to drive on. Building and Safety will look at the route that they looked at, and we will determine where we need to put flag attendants, extra signage, limit the hauling hours, the number of trucks on the street. So we try to make whatever route that was quote unquote like approved by DOT and Street Services as safe as possible.
So has the department made any type of analysis whether either of these two streets is a more proper one to mitigate traffic, number of routes, number of trucks, etc.?
When this route was presented the way that it was approved, I felt like it helped that particular part of the community, because just down the road on Flicker, there is a project that we approved in October, which is about to expire this October, for the export of 12,000 cubic yards. And there was...
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Well, listening to Council District 4 representative and looking at the reports, we're going to recommend, as a recommendation from the chair to council, that we deny the hauling route appeal and forward this to council with that recommendation. I'm sorry, as a recommendation from the chair to deny the hauling route appeal. Leave it at that. Okay. And next item, please.
Next item, Councilman, is the City Planning Commission zone change ordinance in a supplemental use district, assigned district for the Academy Museum of Motion Pictures in CD4, and also the appeal by Mr. James Sullivan.
Okay, let's do this. On number 3, we'll first hear from staff presentation, and then we will hear from Councilmember Tom Lemalange. Is that okay with you, Mr. Lemalange? All right, thumbs up.
Good afternoon, Lucy Ibarra with the Planning Department, Major Projects. I'm here to introduce to you the Academy Museum Motion Pictures. On May 14th, the City Planning Commission approved a conditional use variances, zoning administrator interpretations, site plan review, reduced off-street parking, and recommended approval of a zone change and the establishment of a sign district to allow the development of the Academy Museum of Motion Pictures for a property along Museum Row in the Miracle Mile area of the Wilshire Community Plan. The museum includes the rehabilitation of the historic 1939 Main Company building and the construction of the new wing, also referred to as the Sphere, by the award-winning architect Renzo Piano. The original building's subterranean level will include a 275-seat theater for screenings, lectures, and panel discussions. The ground floor lobby will provide free public exhibition and a K-12 education studio, as well as free access to an introductory gallery, together with a cafe and museum stores. Levels 2 and 3 will contain permanent exhibition on the history of the movies, with the 4th floor hosting temporary rotating exhibitions. The building's 5th floor is the historic tea room, which will be restored to its original use as a dining and social engagement space, with the rooftop terrace with connecting pedestrian access to the 10,000 square foot view deck of the new wing, which will provide visitors expansive views of the city. The main theater of the new wing will include a main theater with the 1,000-seat theater. Before you today is your consideration of the zone change and sign district approvals, approval of the findings for the master conditional use for the alcohol sales that was heard by CPC, and the appeal filed by Mr. James O'Sullivan on the CPC's approvals. I can go into detail now on the appeal points, or I can defer that till after you hear the appellant's testimony.
Let's defer that.
Okay.
Thank you very much. So, Mr. Lemalange. Oh, no. So we'll go up to the appellant first. James O'Sullivan.
Good afternoon. My name is James O'Sullivan. I'm the president of the Miracle Mile Residential Association, vice president of Fix the City. I do have copies. Our attorney submitted a letter regarding this hearing into the file. I have extra copies of it. Oh, we got it already. Okay. I know many people here, probably everyone except those from the community, believe that we're against the museum, any museum. We're not. We live in the middle of Museum Row. What we're against is an event center masquerading as a museum, which is how this all got started. What we don't support are techniques, heavy-handed techniques that rush this process along, like the one that we're going through. We're scheduling this project go to council the day after Plum gives many of us pause. It gives us the impression that the outcome is pre-approved, that nothing we say here matters. It would also be a violation of CEQA, but I'm sure everybody here knows that. What we don't approve of is an 828-page errata document dumped into the record the day before this hearing. One of the reasons why I have to read half of this is because I normally show up knowing what I'm going to say. But we were digging last night trying to figure out what that errata document said, how it changed, what it changed. So I apologize that I'm reading some of this. What we do support is that rules matter. The law matters, even for museums. We're aware that the Academy's attorney in the Academy disagrees with one of the assertions we made that the actual address has changed, and we did that because we were confused. It started off at 6067 Wilshire, it went to 601, and it involved 6000 West 6th Street. We didn't know what the heck was happening. Once we saw the plot plan, we understand, because we thought we were dealing with a 2.2-acre project that had morphed into 3 acres, but now the entire parcel is being rezoned for a zone change. And part of the problems that we have is they're asking you to remove queue conditions from this entire parcel. Those queue conditions were mitigations for the 1993 EIR that was done. The CPC has abused its discretion. It has never said what those queue conditions are, what impact it will have removing them from the parcel, and many of the projects that have already been approved have those queue conditions attached to them. So this whole process has many of us concerned. We also don't believe that this plan complies with the Miracle Miles Community Design Overlay, the Wilshire Community Plan, the framework element, and certainly not the transportation element when it comes to a sign district. The transportation element is very specific. It says that signs within 500 feet of the center line of a scenic highway, which Wilshire Boulevard is, must comply with the signs in a CR zone, which is limited commercial. They won't allow digital or anything else like that. We understand that the applicant is saying that's not true. We are hoping we can come to some sort of a settlement or an agreement, but we are concerned, again, by the rush of this process. We don't believe it's going to give us enough time, and it will force us into a position of having to file a CEQA violation lawsuit. This should not have happened this way. It should not have been rushed. I understand that it needs to be done by the 30th of June. But I'm here to say also that the staff in the DEIR and the FEIR was incorrect when the statement said that our comments concerning policy 3.3.2 of the framework element, that we misquoted Judge Goodman and the Hollywood Community Plan. We did not. That will be a central part of the lawsuit if we need to file one. We would love to see you say no. We would love to see you continue this so the new council person can have a crack at it. We're not optimistic. I had a lot more to say here, but most of it's on the record anyway. We're hoping that we have a chance to make changes to this, and we don't consider one electronic sign on that project. That will be too much because it will violate the transportation element. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And now if we could hear from the applicants. Bill Cramer and William Delvec.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Bill Cramer. I'm Managing Director of the Academy Museum Project. Bill Delvec, our attorney, is actually going to speak now to the appeal, and then I'll speak afterwards to the project.
You guys have a total of 5 minutes. Total.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Bill Delvec on behalf of the Academy. I'd like to briefly address the points that Mr. O'Sullivan made. With regarding the addresses, the project always has been the May Company site. In fact, Mr. O'Sullivan and other concerned citizens live within walking distance of the building. There's been never any doubt. The references to the full address range of addresses has in no way changed or affected the project description. The project description is the project. It's a museum, and it's always been clear. With regard to the queue conditions, those queue conditions attach to all of Parcel D. From the time of the application was filed, it was clear that the queue conditions would be removed on all of Parcel D, so there's been no change there. Mr. O'Sullivan stated that there's been a rush. In fact, there was approximately 2 months between the hearing officer hearing and the City Planning Commission hearing to prepare and analyze this. He's made much about an addition of an errata, which their letter incorrectly states was only available yesterday. It's been available since the day after the appeal date was set. And in that errata, there are 7 simple pages describing changes to the design that were approved by the City Planning Commission. There are the usual attachments, data runs, and what have you, but in terms of the substance of what to read, there's 7 pages. And most importantly, that errata describes design changes that were expressly in front of the Planning Commission and that were approved by the Planning Commission. In fact, the written determination from which the appeal has been taken is clear about all of that. So a little surprised about that. Mr. O'Sullivan has on a number of occasions expressed very articulately his concerns about the sign district, but as he noted, we respectfully disagree. On this particular parcel, the CDO ordinance that imposed queue conditions expressly exempted this parcel. There are no queue conditions. There are guidelines. With regard to the transportation element, it says that there shall be interim design guidelines for scenic corridors, but it says that a standard measure shall be to adhere to the zoning. this is not a standard case. This is a legislative approval with a special set of rules designed specifically for this project. The sign district ordinance has been dramatically curtailed, and I would note that as a general matter, the Miracle Mile sign district the Miracle Mile scenic corridor is not the Angeles Crest Highway. It's a motor-oriented street of commercial buildings. The signage is appropriate to that scenic corridor. I'd be pleased to answer any questions about the appeal or the entitlements. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Cramer, if you wish to speak, you have 2 minutes remaining.
You got it. Okay. Thanks. I will go quickly. My name is Bill Cramer, Managing Director of the Academy Museum Project. The creation of the Film Museum has been a long-held dream of the Academy and the city of Los Angeles, and we're thrilled to be here today to present our plans to you. The museum is a project that's part of an institution that has a deep and honored history tied to both the city and the film industry, the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences. We were founded in 1927 and have long been dedicated to the advancement of the arts and sciences of the motion pictures. In 1944, the Academy created the Academy Foundation to oversee our nonprofit initiatives, education, preservation, public programs, and our vast permanent collection of film-related materials. And now the Academy Foundation is creating the museum. Designed by Renzo Piano, the Academy Museum will be a home for our exhibitions and our permanent collection, as well as our educational programs and public screenings. Our goal is to create the world's premier cultural institution devoted to the history and future of the moving image, something that should be located in Los Angeles, the global home of the movie industry. The site we are proposing is the historic Wilshire May Company building, which is a perfect example of streamlined modern architecture and is an iconic landmark in our city. The selection of this site gives us an incredible opportunity to restore the facade of this historic landmark and allow us to open up Hancock Park to the west. It's currently closed. It also allows us to join other cultural institutions in the Miracle Mile to create a powerful and popular cultural hub for our city. 21 seconds. This is like an Oscar acceptance speech. Lucy talked about the project, so I will skip ahead to, over the last year, we've made many changes to the project that stem from our collaborative meetings with the city, our neighbors, and our stakeholders. We've drastically reduced signage. We've secured 800 additional parking spots, and we're happy to answer any questions you may have. Thanks.
Thank you. If it was an Oscar acceptance speech, you forgot to take a minute of that to thank people. So half of that should have been to thank people. Your mom, too. Ladies and gentlemen, none other than the great Tom Lemalange from Council District 4.
Thank you, Mr. Weezer. What I love about the Oscar show is when the guy who does the sound talks right into the microphone and you think it accepts his speech. I do like that part of it. But everybody in this room has value. But the greater value is our community. And our community has this greatest opportunity to have a museum on the Miracle Mile. The Academy of Arts and Sciences and all its history is deep-rooted in this community. And the fact that the old May Company building will be adaptive to reuse as a museum, already the work that they're doing now, the energy that it's bringing is so exciting. And additionally, a lot of the objections that some may have can be solved. And also, we're spending billions of dollars on a subway that is going to transform the neighborhood so people will be able to reach this location and not only enjoy this new and fabulous museum, but the Peterson Museum, which is just across the street, and the Craft and Folk Art Museum is just down the street, and LACMA, which is right in the heart of the Miracle Mile, and the Natural History Museum and the Page Museum. One of my joys in life of service is when I go and I see a sea of yellow school buses, and I do see that. But once the subway there'll be more than a sea. There'll be an ocean full of opportunity for people to reach this very important institute. And I'd just like to ask all the people who are for this museum to be built on the Miracle Mile to please rise and be recognized right here. So these are people who took the afternoon off and strongly believe in this concept of the Academy of Arts and Science. And the one thing about film, thank you for being seated right now, and the one thing about film, in the history of film, it does inspire people. Here in this building, our rotunda, as we walk out of the Edward Roybal Public Works room, when we walk through the rotunda, that's the most filmed rotunda in the history of any building. So many times that rotunda is used. This city hall has been used for many buildings. In fact, me, in this building some 37 years ago, I had a nice conversation with Henry Fonda, who was waiting for his setup, and walked in, and I told him how much I loved him in the movie Jesse James with Tyrone Power, but that's before your time. I don't know if you saw that movie there. So it's so important because film educates all of us, and all this in Mr. Piano, who's one of the greatest architects in the world, and the concept that we did bring life to the area, and urban lights. And I just want us to remember Chris Burton. Chris Burton, the great artist who took old street lights in Los Angeles and put them together. It is now a magnet. The opening of this museum in a few years will be a magnet for more people to come and learn about the great film and entertainment industry and the actors and how they achieve greatness on the film roles that they played, from Intolerance all the way up to today. So I strongly support this, and I know this will be a great asset for all the city and county of Los Angeles, as well as the state of California, and if not the United States. This is where it belongs, and I could speak for John Ferraro's up in heaven, who said this is what you do. You bring it to the people, you save the old May Company building, and what better use for to have that, and then expand it with the new view. And from that too, because this is such a special place, there's no place like 3rd and Fairfax with Farmers Market, which has been a magnet for people as well. This is a positive addition to our community, and we can meet the parking challenges and any other challenges we have, because this is the place to live in the future with all this great cultural activity. Thank you very much, Mr. Huizar. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lemalange. Mr. Lemalange, we had a great ceremony this morning on your retirement as your last term as a council member, and I posted some pictures on my Facebook, and let me read you one of the comments that I got back by a Miss Gloria Lopez. She wrote, "My granddaughter, Melina, loved saying his name when she was 3 or 4 years old. Playing independently or in her car seat, she would sing the song, Tom Lemalange, Tom Lemalange." And when you asked her who was the greatest council member, she would holler out his name. Wow. Congratulations, Tom Lemalange.
Well, that's very good. I appreciate that. And I wanted to mention special, you know Officer Rios? Officer Rios from Hollenbeck? My mother was his teacher at Rowan Avenue Elementary. And to meet someone where my mother was a public school teacher from, and he remembered her and how he helped, was very touching for me. And also Johnny Sanchez from the Urban Tree Forest. One day he's trimming trees in Griffith Park, and he told me how my mother was a great asset to him and able to be a successful student. So we learned from our parents. And if I could quote the great film that the very special Lou Gehrig movie that Gary Cooper played in, there's a scene in it when Babe Ruth is hamming it up with this kid in the children's hospital, and no one's paying attention to this child over here, and Lou Gehrig goes over and tells him, "Hey, don't quit, you're going to make it." And then several scenes later, when Lou has got his illness and he's going into Yankee Stadium, and that little kid who didn't give up pushed his way through the crowd and said, "Mr. Gehrig, you told me not to quit." And he went out and made the greatest sports speech of any film made. Today is the greatest day of my life, that Lou Gehrig did. So film has always had something. People have always had something for me. And this has been an honor to serve with you, Mr. Huizar, and the planning department and all the staff that's here, and including Mr. O'Sullivan. Thank you very much, Mr. O'Sullivan, who you were a community activist before it was popular. Thank you.
The applicants and the appellants have 5 minutes each. The general public speakers have 1 minute each. Just want to remind everyone of your time. Charles Lindenblatt, Ken Hickson afterwards.
Yes, my name is Charles Lindenblatt. I'm with the Mid-City West Community Council Planning and Land Use Committee. The board at its April 14th meeting passed a motion The final vote was 16 yeas, 8 nays, 3 abstentions. The Mid-City West Community Council opposes the Academy Museum of Motion Pictures project as proposed. We support alternative 3, no main theater building alternative, which includes the refurbishment of the original May Company building in the 1946 edition. This does not include the event center, the sphere, view deck, and pedestrian bridges. This alternative project is more appropriate and compatible with the Wilshire-Fairfax location, and we urge you to accept the appeal. Thank you. That last bit is my own personal comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Ken Hickson, Rosalie Wire? Wayne.
Hi, I'm Ken Hickson. I'm Vice President of the Miracle Mile Residential Association. That this is a done deal, and always has been, is evidenced by the obvious fact that the approval process for this project is driven by getting this deal signed, sealed, and delivered before Councilmember Lemalange terms out of office on June 30th. This is why the changes to the project contained in the 800-plus page errata is being swept under the rug. Not only to deny the residents ample time to respond to these changes and new information, but expressly to deny our newly elected representative of CD4, David Rue, from having any say on this project. This is not democracy fair and square. This is a callous game of beat the clock designed to please the Academy at the expense of the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Rosalie Wayne. Richard Plotkin.
My name is Rosalie Wayne. I'm a member of the Mid-City West Community Council's Land Use Committee. Mid-City West is the neighborhood council for this project. Our council saw and heard numerous presentations of this project over a period of approximately 2 years. After the draft DIR was released, we formed a joint land use and transportation, parking and streetscape committee to study the DEIR and hear testimony from the public. You probably know that this is an unwieldy task because the DEIR was 9,000 pages. We heard from individual stakeholders, representatives of various community groups, and homeowners associations. After several meetings, the Joint Committee voted to support the Academy project. However, this project was sent to the full committee, the full Mid-City West Board, and the alternative motion that Charles Lindenblatt just read was passed. Thank you.
Thank you. Richard Plotkin. And then John Burney.
I'm Richard Plotkin, representing the Beverly Wilshire Homes Association. We totally support Jim O'Sullivan's appeal on this project, and I've submitted written testimony in which we give our 4 reasons. I'd like to just focus in on the 4th reason. As you know, the draft environmental impact report documents unmitigatable levels of traffic and parking congestion radiating out from this project. All of these impacts are basically cast aside by a statement of overriding considerations, which we don't believe is credible. The essence of it is that this project will have an enormous economic and cultural impact on Los Angeles, but these are allegations, these are claims. There's no monitoring program to see if this happens, and we don't think it will. We think it's just exaggeration or completely bogus, but if it were revealed, there's no consequences. The statement of overriding considerations has no verification system.
Thank you. We have about 20 cards in favor of the project. I just want to remind everyone that if you have a point to make, if it's been repeated 20 times, if you could abbreviate your comments, that would be much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm John Burney, the Director of Resident Services at the Park La Brea Apartments. And Councilmember Lemalange, on behalf of our 10,000 residents, it was my honor to be in chamber this morning. Congratulations and thank you for your service, sir. Park La Brea is a neighbor, of course, of this project, as we have been a neighbor of many of the museums. We are very used to what construction looks like. We're not so concerned about parking. We plan to walk to the museum. It is important for us to be here today representing the Park La Brea neighborhood and Park La Brea management and to speak on behalf of this project. It is an investment for our neighborhood, and long after we're gone, it's going to be an investment for our future, which benefits Los Angeles. Thank you.
Thank you. Ron Miller, Taylor Nichols.
Good morning, Councilman. I'm Ron Miller, Executive Secretary of the LA Orange County Building Trades. We represent 140,000 hardworking men and women in LA and Orange County, many thousands that live around this project. We're here today to support the Academy Museum and urge you to approve it. It'll be built under an all-union agreement with the trades, which means good-paying careers. We in the trades are proud to build the right projects in the right place, and there's no better place for this museum than in the center of Los Angeles. Unlike a lot of other cities that have lost their industries, in LA the movie industry is alive and well. I was with the mayor today. While you guys were working hard in Chambers, he was out at Universal Studios opening up a new ride that's going to bring millions of dollars to the city of LA's economy. I don't suggest you put a theme park on Wilshire Boulevard, but it's a perfect place for a museum. Wilshire is one of the grand boulevards of LA, and the museum designed by Renzo Piano is a world-class architect will continue this legacy. So please approve the project.
Thank you. Taylor Nichols, Alicia Witzling.
Hi, my name is Taylor Nichols. I'm a homeowner in the area, and I'm the co-chair of the Transportation, Parking, and Streetscape Committee for the Mid-City West Community Council. I'm surprised to hear people say it's being pushed through. We worked on this for about 5 months, meeting 5 different times with the Academy and the neighbors. The Planning and Land Use Committee and the Transportation Committee did come up with a motion that was in support of the museum and the event center, and I as a homeowner also support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Alicia Witzling, Evan Kaiser.
Hi, I'm Alicia Witzling. I'm here on behalf of the LA Area Chamber of Commerce to offer our support for the project. It is a great example of adaptive reuse in the city. That May Company building, I drive by it every day and it's iconic. It'll be a wonderful addition to the cultural corridor of Wilshire Boulevard. The design fits well with the Art Deco and Googie architecture of its neighbors, as well as the recent changes to LACMA and the Peterson Automotive Museum. It will benefit by its location at the Wilshire Fairfax subway stop. That's actually going to be a really short while ahead, though it seems a long time from now, as well as the additional secured parking spaces the museum just recently obtained. We also think it'll be a boost to tourism in the city. LA is synonymous with the film industry, and now visitors and residents will have a place that pays homage to our hometown industry. And I also can't talk enough about the education component of it. It'll inspire students to pursue jobs, hopefully, in the industry, which I can tell you as a daughter of someone who worked in the film industry, those are great jobs. So, thank you.
Thank you. Evan Kaiser, Mark Panatier.
Good afternoon. I'm Evan Kaiser, president of the Cerroti Company. Our company is over 100 years old and has been a Miracle Mile investor and resident for over 70 years. We believe that the future presence of the Metro Stop, LACMA, the Peterson, and the Academy Museum, and the many other businesses and residential amenities truly make and will make Fairfax and Wilshire a true center of Los Angeles. Smart and flexible planning can and should satisfy all the stakeholders. Adaptive reuse of our great buildings is a key to preserving the heritage of Los Angeles. By investing in this great iconic corner and being flexible about the many uses of the neighborhood, the Academy Museum is a key to our future economic growth and vitality. It is a smart use and one which our enterprise supports. Thank you.
Thank you. Mark Panatier, Meg McComb.
Good afternoon. My name is Mark Panatier. I'm Vice President of the A.F. Gilmore Company, longtime owners of the historic Farmers Market at 3rd Street in Fairfax. Came to speak in favor of this museum project. Let's be honest. Change can be difficult. When we announced the changes at the market 15, 17 years ago, there was a lot of concern, as there should be. But good planning, good follow-up, good follow-through, good decisions by the city and the owners created a really wonderful space and ensured the vitality of the market. The May Company has gone through many changes over the years, most recently either un- or underutilized, and its readaptive use as a museum for AMPUS by a first-class organization will revitalize a piece of this city that needs some tender, loving care. It opens to the sidewalks, which many projects do not, and they have a long-term view similar to the Gilmore Company's view of this neighborhood, that a 2 to 5 year term is not adequate, so we're in favor.
Great. Thank you. Meg McComb, Stephen Cramer.
Good afternoon. My name is Meg McComb. I'm the Executive Director of the Miracle Mile Chamber of Commerce. The businesses in the Miracle Mile applaud and look forward to the coming of this museum. We support it absolutely. We are delighted for their consistent involvement with us. The museum has consistently spoken with us and attended to our concerns. We welcome it, we look forward to it, we approve it. Thank you.
Thank you. Stephen Cramer, Terry Cargis.
Good afternoon. My name's Stephen Cramer. I have a law practice on Wilshire, about 2 blocks east of the proposed site. I'm here to support the project. I've spoken before, and I want to simply second, if you would, Mr. Kaiser, Mr. Panettire's comments, and let everybody speak.
Thank you. Terry Cargis. Scott Tennant.
Hi, Terry Cargis, the Executive Director of the Peterson Museum. We're here to wholeheartedly endorse and support the Academy of Motion Pictures Museum. Be a great addition to Museum Row, the new cultural center of Los Angeles. Thank you.
Thank you. Scott Tennant. Michael Edelstein.
Hi, I'm Scott Tennant. I'm the Director of Executive Communications from the Los Angeles County Museum of Art. LACMA, as you know, is an encyclopedic museum. We have art from all eras, all cultures across the world. A major part of that encyclopedia is getting bigger with the addition of the Academy Museum. Film is probably the most influential art form of the last 100 years, and Los Angeles needs a museum to show that story, so we're fully in support of the project.
Thank you. Michael Edelstein. Barbara Flommer.
Good afternoon. I'm Michael Edelstein, and I'm a Park La Brea resident, and I am really looking forward to this project. I love the various institutions that are walking distance from my home, and I think that the Academy Museum of Motion Pictures will make a superb addition to this, and I want to recognize the generosity of the Academy Museum of Motion Pictures, also that they plan to open up a portion of the museum free to the general public. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Barbara Flommer, David Fanaroff.
Good afternoon. I'm Barbara Flommer. I'm the Community Relations Officer for the Peterson Museum. I'm a resident and a museum goer. What the Academy Museum will do for our neighborhood is create a critical mass which is essential for to create a destination for Los Angeles. We are real competitors with New York, and I think we should take this opportunity and welcome this new museum. It's a wonderful addition. Thank you.
Thank you. David Fanaroff, Tim Deegan.
Good afternoon. My name is David Fanaroff. I'm the president of Lemalange Homeowner Association, located directly across the street from the proposed project at 637 South Fairfax Avenue. Like many, we had our initial concerns that were duly noted in the DEIR. Since then, the Academy has reached out to our community and has been successfully working hard to address our concerns. We reject making unreasonable demands based on worst-case scenarios and unending cynicism. Ultimately, we believe the project will bolster the renaissance taking shape along the Miracle Mile and unquestionably improve the surrounding area in which we live. Our city's cultural heritage is at an historic crossroad. I lend my homeowner association's enthusiastic support and urge your approval. Thank you.
Thank you. Tim Deegan. Clifford Geller.
Good afternoon, council members. My name is Tim Deegan,
Until recently, I served 2 terms as the president of the Mid-City West Community Council. I also have been a resident of the Miracle Mile for 19 years. I know, gentlemen, from both constituencies, community and neighborhood, how much people are looking forward to this community asset, a fantastic opportunity to draw the community together and give us a destination, and I hope you will support it unqualified. Thank you.
Thank you. Clifford Gallagher, Ashley Goshner.
My name is Cliff Gallagher, and I am a doctoral student at the USC School of Cinematic Arts. I am extremely lucky to study film history here in Los Angeles, but I specialize in the history of visual effects, which is almost impossible to learn or teach if you can't see the technology behind it. I support the Academy's Museum for its commitment to show the public both the inventions of tomorrow and the 100-year-old machines that inspired them. That experience will plant ideas in the minds of kids, film students, and Oscar-winning filmmakers alike.
Thank you. Ashley, James Gilson.
Hello, my name is Ashley Gochner, and I'm the general manager of the Hotel Wilshire, which is the closest hotel to the museum site. We are very excited about the Academy Museum and the positive impact it would have on the neighborhood. Our guests often pick our hotel because of its proximity to cultural landmarks. The addition of the Academy Museum would further establish the Miracle Mile as an important tourist destination for travelers into LA. We are in full support of the project. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, James. And then James Panozzo.
Good afternoon. My name is Jim Gilson. I'm Vice President and General Counsel of the Natural History Museum Foundation. We are also the La Brea Tar Pits and the La Brea Tar Pits Museum. We look forward to welcoming yet another museum neighbor, as we have over the last 100 and more years, to the location of the La Brea Tar Pits. LACMA, the Peterson Museum, which we ourselves created, the Craft and Folk Art Museum, the Architecture and Design Museum, and many other museums will be enhanced by the addition of the Academy Museum. Of course, we have particular interest in and focus on the recovery and preservation of any fossils or other cultural material that may occur during the construction. We're confident that we will be continuing to work with the Academy to address those issues successfully, and we're confident that the project will be successful for ourselves and for our neighbors. I have a statement that's a little longer to provide for the record.
Thank you. We'll put that into the record. James Panozzo, Antoinette Ferguson.
Hi, I'm James Panozzo, Executive Director and founder of Launch LA. We produce a free all-ages music and art festival at the La Brea Tar Pits Park, and we operate a gallery on La Brea Avenue. We believe that exposure to the arts enhances quality of life and strengthens community, and we welcome and support this project with your support. Thank you.
Antoinette Ferguson, Brian Weiner.
Good afternoon. 87 years ago, on April 2nd, 1928, screen legend Mary Pickford wrote, "The Academy is the League of Nations of the motion picture industry. There is no greater force for coordination, no greater avenue for constructive and intelligent cooperation for advancement than that offered by the Academy of the Motion Picture Arts and Sciences." End quote. Please fulfill the organization's long-held vision by supporting the Academy Museum project. You will be preserving the legacy of an industry whose birthplace is in the greatest city in the world. Thank you.
Thank you. Brian Weiner, Clyde Young.
Good afternoon, Brian Weiner, representing 6100 Wilshire, the Onyx Tower. We are pleased to announce that we are continuing to support this wonderful endeavor with the museum by having a lease for parking for the event, for all of their events throughout the next few years, to be supportive of any concern of traffic. We are letting the building be used for that purpose. We are very supportive of this project, both for the commercial as well as the residential opportunities as well. We have been invested in that area, both commercially and residentially, through my partner Sam, and we look forward to the council passing this endeavor as quickly as possible.
Thank you.
Now, just for you to know, there's about 400 spaces in our building that we're dedicating, and we know that the museum is dedicating another several hundred, which means that even at the maximum amount of event coverage they have, there'll be plenty of parking to cover any event that they could possibly have in the area, and any concerns that homeowners would have would be mitigated.
Okay, thank you. Clyde Young, Walter Lacayo.
Good afternoon. My name is Clyde Young, and I'm a local patron of the arts. Anyone who visits me always wants to go to the movie studios. Just think of how many visitors will want to visit this museum. Los Angeles is Hollywood film and movie stars. There is no place else in the world like LA, and there will never be another museum like this one. It will truly make us all proud, and we appreciate your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Walter Lacayo, Nicole Shahinian.
My name is Walter Lacayo. I live in South Pasadena, California, and I'm here to support the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Science Museum. Thank you.
Thank you. Nicole Shahinian.
Good afternoon, Nicole Shahanian with the Hollywood Chamber of Commerce. On behalf of the Hollywood Chamber and its nearly 1,000 members, I'm here to urge your strong support of this project. The Academy has been working hand in hand with the Chamber on developing a world-class filmmaking museum for close to a decade now. While the Hollywood Chamber primarily advocates for the geographic boundaries of Hollywood, the entertainment industry transcends the physical boundaries of the neighborhood. With the Academy Museum coming to Museum Row, the brand of Hollywood will reach a new level. Not only will the project bring visitors to the city, LA will create much-needed construction and permanent jobs for Angelenos. This is good for Hollywood, this is good for the industry, and this is good for Los Angeles. Please move forward with this project.
Thank you. Thank you for coming out and for your testimony. For staff, we have a project before us that's being challenged on several grounds, one of which was made by the main appellant, which was this is not a museum, this is an event center. In our processing of the project, we're looking at land use issues, that they comply with the planning code, et cetera, environmental issues, traffic, et cetera. Were we planning for a museum-type facility or for an event facility?
Right. The project has always been primarily a museum that celebrates the cinema and the filmmaking history. As part of that function, it would require, or it's not requiring, but it's including a 1,000-seat theater to celebrate cinemas and movie making as part of its operations. It's always been described, it's always been disclosed, but the primary function of the establishment is the museum.
That's okay.
And if I can just clarify some of the issues that were brought up. The zone change before you is the removal of existing queue conditions, which originate from a previously entitled project that never materialized. That project, approved in 1993, permitted a mixed-use development with over 1 million square feet of floor area for commercial, office, retail, and restaurant uses in a 250-room hotel. It was all within a pair of 17 and 23-story towers. Those queue conditions specified specific development regulations as well as mitigation measures tied to that 1993 project. With the City Council approval, the project will include new queue conditions relative to the proposed project, as well as mitigation measures tied to the impacts associated with the proposed project. Again, before you is the recommendation of the establishment of the sign district. It was approved as recommended before the CPC as they acknowledge the historic signage associated with the storefront windows and flagpoles. In addition, the signage was greatly reduced from that which was analyzed in the draft EIR. The appeal points filed by Mr. O'Sullivan raised several points. The first is that the project does not comply with the Miracle Mile CDO with respect to signage, and the design of the new wing and site plan review should therefore be denied. As previously mentioned, the CPC found that the project signage on the original building accounted for the activation of the dormant storefront windows and flagpole signs that historically advertised wares and goods sold in the May Company department store. Signage was limited to the new wing. Project satisfies CDO guidelines for preserving the May Company building and maintaining its prominence along Wilshire Boulevard and setting the new wing back from the original building so that it retains that prominence. Moreover, the design, overlay, and sign district is not in conflict with the transportation element, as was described at the CPC hearing of May 14th. While Wilshire Boulevard is a designated scenic highway, a corridor plan has not been adopted. In the absence of a corridor plan, the transportation element instead applies interim guidelines, and these interim guidelines allow signage for traffic, informational, and identification signs within the public right-of-way. It prohibits off-site outdoor advertising in the public right-of-way within 500 feet of the center line, and that scenic highways have first priority for removal of non-conforming billboards and signs. But it also allows discretionary land use approvals for non-residential uses within 500 feet of the center line in compliance with the requirements of the CR zone, which can also be superseded with the establishment of the sign district. Another point that was raised by the appellant was the variance granted for bicycle parking, that it did not provide substantial evidence of special circumstances to the project site. In this case, the original building and the preservation of the original building and the main entrance of the original building provides this substantial evidence or the special circumstance. The bicycle ordinance requires that short-term parking be located within 50 feet of the main entrance or 50 feet of the main entrance of the nearest parking garage. The parking garage serving this project is off-site well beyond the 50 feet. Nevertheless, short-term parking is being provided at the entrance of the Pritzker garage on 6th Street, but it's also being provided immediately near the Fairfax entrance to the pedestrian and the piazza on Fairfax Avenue. Locating it within the 50 feet of the main entrance of the Wilshire Boulevard entrance is impossible due to conflicts with the right-of-way, and then 50 feet of the new wing provides impacts to the visibility of the short-term parking to pedestrians and bicyclists who would be using the site. The long-term parking requirement states that the long-term parking be required or located in the parking garage, but the parking garage again is well beyond 50 feet of the original building. Instead, the long-term parking is being provided within the building in immediate access to employees of the museum. The zoning administrator interpretations under the contention of the appellant were inappropriately applied. The zoning administrator's interpretations were intended to clarify that the museum uses are consistent with the C2 zone. The C2 zone allows uses consistent with the proposed project, including cafes, film and tape editing, motion picture reconstruction, motion picture theaters and production, film rentals, observatories, storage, tea rooms, as well as video and media production. The C2 zone also permits uses consistent with the C1.5 zone, which permits art galleries, auditoriums with a capacity of 3,000, bookstores, commercial and cultural exhibits, motion picture theaters, and for-profit museums. And its listing for for-profit museums, the city's use list, also includes a reference to the R4 zone. The R4 zone allows nonprofit museums. The appellant takes issue with the reduction of off-street parking as being inappropriate. While the construction of the Purple Line extension is several years out, the code, which allows special permission for reduced parking, states that a transit station does not need to be constructed, only that a resolution to fund a preferred alignment has been adopted by the LA County Transportation Commission by a resolution detailing specific stations and portal locations. The Wilshire Fairfax station has been committed and construction is underway. Another appellant point was that the master conditional use determination by CPC was not supported by the findings. Those findings are before you and will be before the City Council for approval. In addition, the project has been conditioned to apply the plan approval procedures for the individual establishments within the museum. Again, the appellant takes issue with the removal of the queue conditions. I just want to restate that there's no nexus between the proposed project before you and the queue conditions relative to the 1993 project. And again, I just want to restate that the C2 zone does permit nonprofit museums. Currently, LACMA and the Peterson Automotive Museums are both nonprofit museums, and they're located immediately adjacent to the project in the C2 zone. And that concludes staff's recommendations on the appeal points.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your presentation. That's all the questions we have. So with that, after review of the file and listening from the applicants and appellants and Councilmember Tom Lemalange, we'll make a recommendation from the chair to the full council to sustain the City Planning Commission's recommendations and approve the Academy Award Museum project and its entitlements, including the approval of a signage district for the project and we will effectively deny the appeals of the project. Also, as part of the recommendation from the chair, that we approve the environmental clearance and the department's findings for the entitlements. And finally, as a recommendation from the chair, that the city attorney prepare the final signed district ordinance and further recommend that council adopt the final ordinance to be submitted to council. So that'll be the recommendation, and this item is in council when?
Tomorrow, sir.
Tomorrow, sir. Okay, great. Thank you very much. Mr. Lemalange, any final parting words before I move on from this item?
I just want to thank everybody, and it's been an honor to work on this project for many years, from its relocation to the Hollywood community to this wonderful opportunity between the historic Bay Company building and the new addition that is proposed. And thank everyone for their comments today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and congratulations, Mr. Lemalange. That concludes this item, and there is no public comment. This concludes the meeting. Thank you. Meeting adjourned.